Brace yourself. The wide skies of Oklahoma are hiding a crisis that roars louder than a tornado. Homelessness in 2025. Global homeless news pulls back the curtain on the Sooner State right now. This is not dry data or dusty policy talk. It is a raw journey through beating hearts fighting to stay warm on frozen streets and scorching back roads. Picture the scene. A bitter gray dawn slices through Oklahoma City. Wind whips under an enormous highway bridge. Valerie, almost 50, crouches beside a tiny fire made from twigs and damp cardboard. Her blue eyes, set in weathered skin and a mess of gray hair, sparkle with defiant life. 8 years without a roof. 8 winters of numb hands. 8 summers where the sun felt like a hammer. While trucks thunder above, she whispers, "I'm giving up ain't who I am." Her quiet flame burns brighter than the traffic that roars overhead. Hold Valerie in your mind, because every mile of this story is stitched to lives like hers. People no report can flatten. They stand up, shout back at fate, and insist we see them. The numbers hit like hail. On March 26, 2025, Oklahoma City recorded 1,838 people without a steady bed, a jump of 28% in 1 year. Statewide, more than 4,000 neighbors drift from shelter lines to car seats, and the count climbs each week. Tulsa shivers in the same storm. Night after night, shelters slam their doors once the last cot is taken. Waiting lists stretch so long that hope cracks. In dusty small towns, families pack into relatives' living rooms or sleep in old sedans parked on empty roads. Some build shacks deep in fields where no one can see them. School halls echo with the struggle. The Oklahoma City district counted almost 2,000 homeless students back in 2022. Teachers say the problem still smolders, a stain no budget can wash away. Why is the fire growing? The math is brutal. Average rent in the bigger cities now tops $1,000 a month. Minimum wage is stuck at $7.25 an hour, which is only about $1,160 before tax. That covers barely half the rent, long before food, power, or gasoline steal the rest. Relief programs born during the pandemic ran dry long ago, and inflation rushed in like a thief. Courts drowned in eviction papers last year. Oklahoma City judges handled 400 cases every single week, each one pushing another household toward the street. This is no passing storm. It is a fault line ripping through neighborhoods, farms, and prairie. Drive 100 miles toward the red dirt horizon, and you reach tiny towns where the nearest shelter is 2 counties away. Here, Sarah and her 2 young sons sleep in a rusty pickup that will not start. They park behind an old feed store to stay out of sight, but coyotes howl nearby, and the boys jerk awake every hour. In school, the children nod off at their desks, yet they still grip their pencils because they dream of becoming pilots. Their teachers quietly slip snacks into backpacks, praying the family lasts till morning. Faith groups roll out soup lines, local ranchers donate blankets, and retired nurses run makeshift clinics in church basements. But every helping hand can only reach so far before the tide of need pulls them under. Volunteers confess they feel like they are pouring water into a bucket with no bottom. Yet they refuse to quit because each saved life is worth the ache. But how do we get here? The answer winds back through a century of highs and heartbreaks. Jump to the roaring 1920s. Oil burst from the soil and turned Tulsa into the oil capital of the world. Fields of rigs rose overnight. Hard-working farmers traded dusty overalls for sharp suits. Money flowed like the black gold under their feet. Then the 30s struck like a sandblast. The Dust Bowl choked the land, killing crops and dreams. Families watched topsoil spiral into the sky. Thousands loaded their lives onto broken trucks and rolled west. The famous Okies of the Grapes of Wrath. A brief sunrise arrived in the 70s when oil boomed once more. Hopes soared until the crash of the 80s smashed them. Rigs stood silent and jobs vanished. At the same time, mental health care crumbled across the nation. Hospitals like Griffin Memorial and Norman cut beds and set patients adrift with no net. The 2008 recession piled on. Energy jobs softened the blow for some, but store clerks, farm hands, and factory workers never climbed out of the hole. Then the 2020s arrived with a pandemic that changed the map. Remote workers chased cheap houses in Oklahoma and rents exploded 30% since 2020. Yet the minimum wage never budged. Each blow stacked on the last until the ground finally cracked under tens of thousands of feet. Now tents bloom beneath city bridges, car lots double as bedrooms, and rural barns become the last line of defense against the cold. But what happens next could shake even harder. Will lawmakers finally raise wages or pour money into housing? Or will Valerie and her neighbors face a ninth winter on frozen concrete? Stay with us. The next chapter uncovers hidden heroes, bold plans, and the battles still to come. History is crashing back like a dust storm. In 1934, a shanty town called Hooverville clung to the riverbank in Oklahoma City until officials set it ablaze to tidy up the view. Today, sweep after sweep drives new encampments out of sight. The same old pattern disguised as progress. Woody Guthrie's songs of dust and wandering still echo across the plains. Only now the chorus drifts over eviction slips and empty pockets. This crisis is Oklahoma's story woven tight. The oil highs hiding the hunger lows. The proud spirit, sometimes too proud to see rot creeping under the floorboards. Before we push on, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to Global Homeless News so you never miss another hard-hitting journey. Ring that bell icon too. Your clicks fuel our travels, and I want to hear what you think as we keep digging. A bright spark cuts through the gloom. In Oklahoma City, the Key to Home Partnership launched in 2023 with a daring goal. Move 500 chronically homeless neighbors into real housing by the end of 2025. By March this year, 153 people already turned keys in new door locks. Proof that resolve can beat the odds. Picture it. Outreach workers in neon vests slog through muddy tent camps, sharing steaming coffee with residents and listening without judgment. At the same time, housing guides race across town convincing wary landlords to trust tenants whose pasts hold late fees and broken leases. When a unit opens, 91% of those offer a home shout yes. Meeting people where they stand really works. The program follows the Housing First model that helped Houston/street counts. No hoops, no tests, just a front door and wraparound support like therapy or job coaching. It even saves cash. Local studies say it costs about $15,000 a year to house someone compared with $40,000 to leave them outside where paramedics, police, and jails rack up bills. Oklahoma adds its own heartbeat. Churches turn fellowship halls into short-term beds. The Homeless Alliance tracks supplies, and volunteers haul couches, lamps, and kind words into bare apartments. A Tulsa soup kitchen that served 100 meals a week back in 1975 now dishes out 1,000. A quiet river of care that Key to Home rides today. It is not the full cure yet, but it shows seeds can sprout even in rocky soil. Imagine you ran the show in your hometown. Would you pour cash into new shelters, hike wages until rent no longer steals every paycheck, or flood the market with affordable units? Drop your plan below. I am eager to see your blueprint. Far from the city lights, rural Oklahoma hides its own crisis. In Shawnee, Enid, Durant, and Hugo, homelessness rarely looks like rows of tents. Families crash on cousins' sofas or park sedans by creeks at night. Services vanish over the horizon. No big shelters, food banks running on fumes, and the nearest bus stop miles away. The PATH program reaches people with mental illness in the East. Yet one tiny team cannot patrol every winding county road. Picture a single dad in Ada who lost his factory job. Now the pickup that once hauled tools holds his life. His children squeeze into an ants-packed trailer while he sleeps behind the wheel, fighting shame and mosquitoes. Kids feel the pinch hardest. In 2023, rural Alfalfa County logged 50 students without stable housing. Some bunk in barns, others huddle in sheds. Teachers raid their own cupboards for socks, coats, and granola bars, turning classrooms into rescue stations. In Stillwell, a girl trudges 3 miles to school from her friend's barn because no bus rumbles her way. Elders suffer too. 200 seniors in a Dare County couch surfed or slept in vehicles last year after rent jumps ate their pensions or medical bills drained savings. These struggles stay hidden, far from city headlines. Yet the need is every bit as fierce. Inside the Capitol, a tug of war rages. Lawmakers argue whether to open arms or tighten fists. Senate Bill 484, pushed by Senator Lisa Standridge, would block towns under 300,000 residents from spending local dollars on homeless aid. Backers say it shields small budgets and keeps streets tidy. Opponents warn it will push desperate people into Oklahoma City and Tulsa, turning those hubs into pressure cookers while rural leaders shrug. House Bill 1764 swings an even harder stick. It would spread 2024's anti-camping law across every public corner in the state. Sleep on a bench or under a bridge, and you could face a $50 fine or 10 days behind bars. Supporters claim public safety. Critics call it punishing people for simply having nowhere else to lay their heads. The debate grows hotter each week, and the stakes climb with every cold night and rising rent. Stay with us, because the next segment uncovers fresh battles, bold ideas, and the human cost written between the lines. Get ready, this part is wild. House Bill 1798 could give cities the power to buy one-way bus tickets to send homeless people out of state. Think places like Dallas or Wichita. Supporters call it a fresh start, but critics say it's just a slick way to dump the problem somewhere else. A new version of not our problem. Now on the flip side, House Bill 1802 brings a rare bit of hope, pumping $10 million into mental health outreach. Both sides of the aisle quietly nodded at this one, a rare team-up in a divided Capitol. But let's not pretend this debate just started. In 2024, Governor Kevin Stitt vetoed a bill to expand shelter funding. He said it was a local job, not the state's problem. That veto still casts a long shadow over the 2025 arguments. History is knocking again. Back in 1936, Oklahoma City rounded up vagrants to clean up its image. Now in towns like Enid, a mayor warned that SB 484 could shut down their only food pantry. In Edmond, a police officer shrugged about HB 1764, saying it'll just move the tents down the road. It's a messy fight. Some laws try to help, others try to hide. What's passed now will shape Oklahoma's streets for years to come. But numbers alone can't tell this story. People can. Meet BL, a mother in Oklahoma City who fled an abusive partner in 2019. With 2 toddlers, one still in diapers, she spent 18 months in shelters. I'd lie awake hating myself for their tears, she said, her voice shaking. Odd jobs kept them fed. Then one day, the Housing First program handed her a key. Now, her kids' laughter fills their apartment. Crayon drawings cover the fridge. It's not flashy, but it's hers. Casey, a wiry man in Norman, lives in a field near an emergency shelter. He's been drifting off and on, homeless in the town he grew up in. During the January 2025 point-in-time count, he watched volunteers in coats and gloves go under bridges and into the woods. They didn't just count, he said, puffing on a cigarette. They asked my name. He's worried the new bills might wipe out what little help's left. Lena's a grandmother in Tulsa. She lost her home in 2023 after cancer drained her savings. Now she sleeps on a church floor. I raised 3 kids here, she said softly. Never thought I'd be the one needing help. Then there's Tyan Lawton, a veteran battling PTSD since returning from overseas. He camps beside a creek with his loyal dog. They try, but it's slow, he muttered about the VA. His tent flaps in the wind while he waits. Mara is just 17. She was kicked out in Muskogee after coming out as gay. Family's gone, but I'm still here, she told me with a fire in her eyes. For a year, she's been crashing on couches and doing her best to survive. Javier is a dad in Shawnee who lost his job at a feed store in 2024. Now his family of 4 lives in his sister's crowded trailer. I tell my boys it's temporary, he said, staring past me. His smile barely held together. These aren't just stories, they're the heartbeat of this crisis. Each person holding on, each one a piece in Oklahoma's larger fight to survive. So why is this hitting Oklahoma so hard? The roots run deep. Poverty here is stubborn. 15% of the population lives below the poverty line, more than the national average. Mental illness is widespread too, ranked 4th worst in the country as of 2024. Add substance abuse and domestic violence, and you get a storm that floods shelters. In Oklahoma City alone, WOPA has to turn away over 200 women every month, and the state is short 50,000 affordable housing units. Construction just can't keep up. Rents in urban areas have jumped 30% since 2020, but wages haven't moved an inch. Still stuck at $7.25 an hour, unchanged since 2009. Culturally, Oklahoma stands at a crossroads. It's a state shaped by pioneers and oil barons. The pull yourself up mindset is more than a motto. It's practically law. That gritty independence was born from the land rush and oil booms, and it still runs strong in small towns and city blocks. But here's the hard truth. That same pride sometimes stops people from asking for help. In rural areas, needing support feels like failure. In Veneta, a farmer hid his hunger until he collapsed in his own field. In Ada, a widow sold her wedding ring before she'd go to a shelter. That clash between personal pride and public need is Oklahoma's real struggle, a test of how much pain people will endure before asking for help. And the crisis doesn't end with the unhoused. It ripples through every layer of the state. In Bricktown, Oklahoma City's trendy tourist strip, shop owners grumble that encampments scare off visitors. Their neon signs now glow next to tents and tarps. Nonprofits push back, saying visibility brings awareness, forces action. Tulsa faces the same clash. Some push for panhandling bans, while others fight for compassion. Council meetings stretch past midnight in shouting matches over dignity versus order. Schools feel it too. Homeless students miss 20% more days than their classmates. In 2024, OKC schools strain to keep up. Teachers try to teach while also handing out snacks and coats. Libraries become safe zones. In El Reno, half the library's daily visitors are homeless, just looking for a warm chair or a quiet break. Crime sparks even more arguments. In 2024, petty theft in Oklahoma City often linked to areas with encampments. But violent crime? That tied more to poverty, not to homelessness. A fact that gets lost in angry debates. The past repeats again. In 1935, Tulsa rounded up unhoused residents to clean up its image. Today's crackdowns echo that same old playbook. But people are trying. In Ardmore, a mosque feeds 100 people every week. In Sapulpa, a church stocks coats in winter. But even these helpers get tired. Their pews are packed, and their food shelves empty. In Norman, a diner owner quietly hands out meals to people in tents, but worries someone will complain. In Lawton, a veteran said the camps near his home scare his kids. Compassion is stretched thin, but it's still there. So who fixes this? The state? The cities? Churches? Or is it all of us? That's the question echoing across Oklahoma right now. The ripple effect runs deeper than most ever notice. In Stillwater, a cafe owner quietly hires people living on the streets, training them as baristas. It's a small rebellion against stigma, and it's earned her both praise and side eyes. In Ponca City, a hardware store quietly donates tarps and blankets. No headlines, just survival before appearance. Schools are stepping in too. In 2024, Tulsa introduced safe spaces for homeless students, rooms with AC and snacks. But funding is shaky. In Edmond, businesses near a small tent cluster reported a 15% drop in foot traffic. That led to calls for sweeps. Yet in Enid, a bar owner told me, "I'd rather see tents than empty streets. At least they're alive." Faith groups are filling gaps. In Chickasha, a Baptist church turns its fellowship hall into a warming center each winter. In Muskogee, a local Buddhist group meditates with the unhoused, offering calm in chaos. Back in 1980, Ponca City neighbors came together after a flood, feeding each other with no questions asked. That spirit still flickers today. A cop in Shawnee quietly drives a man to a shelter. A grocer in Guthrie slides day-old bread into a bag for someone who stops by every week. These aren't breaking news, they're life-saving acts. Quiet threads holding the fabric together. Solutions in motion, building forward. Key to home is a solid start. But prevention is the Rayall Foundation. Imagine this. $500 in emergency aid to stop an eviction, compared to $40,000 to support someone after they're already homeless. That's the cost difference, according to the Homeless Alliance. Prevention pays off, but even with vouchers in hand, there are no places to rent. That's the real roadblock. Tulsa launched a micro-home pilot in 2024, 2,200 square foot homes. Small, simple, affordable, and it works. The idea is scalable if given real funding. Rural areas? They need mobility. Picture vans from the PATH program traveling across counties with aid, bringing food, meds, and shelter help to people who don't have a bus stop for miles. In McAllister, a mobile clinic treated 50 people in 1 week during a 2024 trial. Scale that, and entire communities could finally get care. Grassroots efforts keep glowing. In Pryor, a barber gives free cuts to the unhoused, a little dignity in every trim. In Oklahoma City, St. Luke's packs hygiene kits and donates leftover produce. Back in 1976, Norman came together after a flood. That spirit could rise again statewide. If policy follows hard, tax breaks for builders, a $10 minimum wage, rent caps, these steps could flip the story. In Claremore, a mechanic fixes cars for unhoused families because mobility is freedom. In 1933, the Okies rebuilt in California. Maybe now, in Oklahoma, they can rebuild home. Global reflections. Oklahoma's place in the world. Zoom out and see the big picture. California has 180,000 unhoused. Oklahoma has just 4,000, but the roots are the same. A broken housing system, slow wages, and not enough help. In New York, thousands sleep on subway seats. In London, parks hide tents. Sao Paulo's favelas mirror our rural shadows. Oklahoma's once low cost of living used to be a buffer, but that edge is slipping. Look at Finland. By 2024, they housed 90% of their homeless using the Housing First model. Japan's Osaka built tiny villages for 500 people. Could Oklahoma City try something like that? In the 1930s, the Okies were the ones cast aside. Now, we're seeing our own struggle in their old footprints. The hidden struggles, voices you don't hear. Now peel back the layers. Native communities are suffering the most. In 2023, 20% of Oklahoma City's homeless were indigenous, 3 times their share of the population. Many reservations lack shelters. Generational trauma has nowhere to heal. LGBTQ+ youth are being left behind. In Tulsa, many teens are kicked out by their families. A Norman drop-in center reported seeing 30 LGBTQ+ youth in 2024, each one fighting to survive without a support system. Veterans are struggling too. In Yukon, a pod housing veterans fights to stay open. The funding's thin, the wait list's long. One vet told me, "We're forgotten after the uniform comes off." Then there's the racial divide. In 1921, Tulsa's Black Wall Street was burned to the ground. Now, some of those same families face modern redlining and housing barriers. The cycle continues. In Alva, a widow lost her home after a tornado. Aid never arrived. In Okemah, a single mom with 3 kids now sleeps in a friend's attic. No one counts them. No one sees them. Everyday heroes, the quiet giants. Look closer, and you'll find heroes everywhere. In Chickasha, a nurse tends to tent dwellers' wounds in silence. In Okmulgee, a child's lemonade stand raises enough to buy socks for the homeless. In Guthrie, a grocer slides out extra bread. In Shawnee, a police officer bends the rules to drive someone to safety. In Holdenville, a teacher tutors kids after school, knowing they don't have electricity at home. In Claremore, 30 people were given shelter during a blizzard. In Tahlequah, a farmer donates eggs every week. These acts don't make headlines, but they're loud enough to matter. Future visions, reimagining what's possible. Now dream big. What if Oklahoma stitched all these patches, church pantries, barber chairs, vet pods, into a real statewide net? What if there were apps that tracked open units, trade schools for teens at risk? In 1933, the Okies rebuilt out west. Now, it's our turn to rebuild here. Land trusts, rent controls, and a $12 minimum wage by 2035 could be a game changer. In the 1970s, Tulsa's oil boom hit poverty. Now, unity could finally heal it. One veteran told me in Lawton, "Give us tools, not pity." What if we actually did? The bigger picture, a shared struggle. Step back even more. In 2025, kids in Manila will sleep on cardboard. Here, they sleep in cars. London soup lines fed 1,000 last year. Oklahoma City's fed 100, and growing. In the 1930s, oil wives in OKC fed the poor. Today it's tougher, but not impossible. In Osaka, Micro-units gave people a second chance. Could Oklahoma be next? In Purcell, a vet said, "We're one bill away." This isn't just about Oklahoma. It's a mirror of everywhere. Of us. Reflections. What it means to truly see. Pause now and picture it all again. Valerie's fire. Blanca's stove. Casey's tarp. Lena's pew. Ty's creek. Mara's couch. Javier's trailer. They are not strangers. They are us. In 1920s Tulsa, oil masked want. Today it's just bare. This documentary was never just about places. It's about people. About what home really means. About who we choose to see. Can stories like this shift how we think? Will they spark action? Tell me in the comments. I'm listening. Closing this chapter, but not the journey. This 2025 Oklahoma journey leaves me raw, shaken, but also lifted. From Valerie's embers to Blanca's kitchen. From Casey's tent to Lena's faith. From Ty's shore to Mara's fire. From Javier's hope to thousands still unseen. This isn't the end. It's the start of something bigger. Thanks for traveling with Global Homeless News. Keep seeking. Keep caring. We'll see you again soon.